Okay, this is a new episode of RongCast. It's like episode like 8, 9. I don't know. I don't remember anymore. Today it's like James and I again because everyone else left, and we need to get assignments done. So, what are we gonna talk about, James?
So I just want to talk about movies, just like the general state of movies, current state of Hollywood, however you want to phrase it. And the
Okay.
main thing that comes to mind when I think of the current state of Hollywood is Disney. Disney, Disney, Marvel, mainly Marvel, but Disney as a whole, because obviously Star Wars as well. Just in general, Disney has fallen off like insanely hard in the past few years. And it's gone to the point where like I don't even know if they'll survive as a company anymore. Like, I mean, I know they'll survive as a company, but maybe not as a filmmaking company. So I don't know if you want to expound on that, but yeah, it's bad.
All right. So, that's something. So recently they had Bob Iger come back. He used to be he used to be the CEO of the company, and they left early into 2020 after like making a ton of accomplishments. So they did like Shanghai Disneyland. They acquired Marvel, Star Wars, the Muppets, 20th Century Fox, all of that. So he retired on a good hill, and then COVID happened. So they needed assistance. So he came back because like they needed like his leadership and trying to like get through the entire pandemic. And so he's still been as CEO for a while, or for a little bit now. Um, so after he came back from retirement, and he's like been at least in like recent news, in like the last like 2 weeks, he's been talking about like all their recent failures and like how all their movies are not being as like critically like well recepted, and he's been putting like blame on like we couldn't do much. It was like filmed during the pandemic, so it's just all the pandemic's fault. But it's like I don't think it is because some of these films are like the pandemic's been over for a little bit. It's been like one or a year and a half that's been really over, and films have been like coming out, being produced since then, and they're still shit. Like they're just not
Yeah.
good. So there's really not much. It's like there's really not much of an excuse you can use to like blame the pandemic on it. It's the entire thing is their mindset is quantity over quality. That's like clearly evident in terms of like how many MCU films have released within like the last 3 years. Because
Hmm.
Avengers Endgame came out in 2019, and that was at the beginning of the saga from like 2008 to 2019. And in the 4 years since Endgame came out, we've had more content that's been released in the MCU than existed before from 2008 to 2019. So in that 11-year gap, there's less content than the last like 3 to 4 years. And if you look at that 11-year gap, those movies were all critically received. They're all pretty good, and then it's like a mixed bag now. So it's like half the movies that come out are like all like 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience scores are like barely supporting it. So it's like it's they're just churning out too much without really putting care into whether they should be doing it or not. So like they're losing all like artistic quality or like meaning in pursuit of just making a quick buck. I think that's the entire fault with like the rest of Disney. So like Star Wars is doing the same thing. You can elaborate on that, and then everything else, it's like they just seem to just want to produce as much content as possible, just so they can just like just sell as many tickets, and they're not putting as much effort into actually making sure what they are making is like good in any form.
Yeah. So yeah, just building off that like content over quality thing, like it feels like they just complete a project and then like forget about it and just move on to the next thing. Like there was a movie Disney released very recently. I don't even remember when. And if you ask people about the movie, the majority of those people will be confused because they don't even realize that it's a movie. Like I remember watching the movie I'm talking about is called Strange World. It's it was an animated movie. I think it was from Disney Animation Studio. I don't think it was Pixar.
Yeah, it was.
Uh, It came
it was
out.
animation.
Yeah, I think it came out earlier this year. It might have even been last year. I don't remember.
I think it was like 2022, like spring 2022.
Oh wow. Okay, so that shows you exactly what I'm talking about. Like no one knew that this movie existed because they just didn't advertise it. They put absolutely 0% of the budget into advertising, so no one even knew that it was a thing. And that I think is because they just made it and then moved on to the next project because they had so many projects to work on. They had no time to devote anything else to anything else. So, and that was another one of the main complaints about the movie is that it felt completely rushed and there was almost a complete absence of a plot. It was just the characters moving from one situation to another and just sort of doing things. There wasn't actually a cohesive storyline or anything like that, and it just felt very like patched together, like and thrown at the last minute. And that's the case in a
Oh,
lot of Disney movies recently.
pretty
Most
much, yeah.
notably Marvel. I don't know if that's what you're gonna say, but
Yeah, I was just saying pretty much all movies that they make, like any franchise.
yes, yeah.
Um,
Most notably Marvel. Like Quantumania is one of the main examples of that.
that's an
Um,
awful movie.
yeah, that it was a movie. It was definitely a movie. Um, the plot was completely changed right before they released the movie, and you can actually see evidence of that when you watch it because a lot of the scenes like they don't flow naturally from one point to another, and the characters' perspectives of certain characters just don't make sense. I've only seen the movie once for understandable reasons, but I think what happens in the movie is Ant-Man, he has like a little meeting with Kang, and like he has no reason to suspect that Kang is a villain at this point because he was separated from his daughter who did find out that he was a villain. But then in like the next scene or like two scenes later, he's already coming up with a plan to defeat Kang, and like he doesn't even know that he's the villain at this point. And that's because I don't remember who came out and said it, but they changed the order of a lot of the scenes, and they completely like rewrote how the movie was going to flow. So they had to. I think the production team got an order from Kevin Feige or whatever, whoever it was, to like rearrange the scenes of the movie. So they were forced to like patchwork together a cohesive story, and you can see that it's just not cohesive at all. And once again, that's just evidence that the production was rushed.
And that's like the case for like 99% of the rest of the movies that they make. Um, what's another example? I mean, okay, one thing that they mentioned, or Bob Iger mentioned, is that the recent movie, The Marvels, that just came out, the reason why it failed, like horrendously at the box office, is because it was, I said earlier, a COVID-19 movie. When
Mhm.
the entire thing is like that, it was like it didn't seem rushed in any way. It just seemed bad, or it just not. It did
Yeah,
not seem good at all. And I was like, I didn't want to like assume anything because I didn't really like the first one as much, but it wasn't awful. Um, but this one I was just like, there was nothing that like made me just like want to be there for the rest of the movie. Like after like the first 30 minutes, like okay, I'm there. I didn't want to waste my money and leave, so I just endured through it. But it was just it felt so awkward the entire time.
yeah, I completely agree with that.
And I feel
I
like that's
feel
like
like
that seems like it's like the general trend. Like there's some outliers for like some Marvel movies or TV shows. Like Loki is one.
yeah, yeah,
The most recent season of Loki was really good. Guardians of the Galaxy movie was pretty good. I'm just like trying to think of anything else that like really was just generally good. And I just can't really think of much just beyond those two. I can just only think of bad things.
yeah. I feel like Star Wars also fell victim to that. You know, The Mandalorian season 3.
Which is awful,
I
horrible.
honestly didn't watch it. I watched the first episode, and I was like, "Wow, this is not as good as the other seasons," and I didn't watch the rest.
It was Mandalorian season 1 started off so great because it was so just away from everything else, right? Took place in Star Wars universe, but it wasn't connected to like all the Jedi and all the lightsabers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
It's good because it's like it's opened the universe to something more than just the Skywalker family. And then like you had season 2, which is like, okay, we're gonna expand it with like introduce Ahsoka, which is fine because like we're still not as major. But then like Luke Skywalker was the finale, which is still really good.
mm-hmm.
And he brought back and he gave him Grogu so the Mandalorian could do his own thing. And then he wasn't able to do that because Grogu sells tickets, and Disney wanted to sell tickets and merchandise. So they changed their entire the purpose of the ending for season 2 just so they could sell tickets, which is like a cop out, like a cheap way of just it reinforces like their just drive just to gain as much money as possible and nothing else, which is infuriating. Because it kind of just ruined the entire point of it. So season 3 ended up being like even more focused on like the Skywalker, the Empire, and stuff like that. And it's just like it's building towards like this like giant cinematic universe for Star Wars, which doesn't really apply, and I'm just scared for like what the future is gonna bring. Because we're gonna try and repeat the MCU with Star Wars, and it's just not gonna be as good in my opinion.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing is like, I don't know why they're doing that. Like, obviously, I know why. It's for money. But the thing is, like, they've had success in other areas that don't involve the Skywalker like family. Like Andor was an insanely successful TV show, and like obviously it wasn't as successful as the Mandalorian and like the main 9 films. But in terms of like how well it was received, many people regard it as like top 5 Star Wars content of all time, and that is removed from what they previously made. So I don't know why they aren't making more stuff like that. Like they're still trying to link it back to what they've already done. Like they're afraid to step out of their comfort zone like they have in the past.
I don't know. They just released Ahsoka, and that was fine. I liked it a lot. It felt like it was Rebels season 5, but at least anything that's made by Dave Filoni, in my opinion, feels like it has like some general connection. Like they're all interrelated. It's like the reason why the sequels failed is because it's like there's no guidance in it all, and at least his projects are all working together in sync with one another. Like sure they're all building towards like some final endgame type movie within this cinematic universe. So like it's a 50-50 shot. Half of them are good and half of them are bad, but I'm just weary of the entire thing.
Yeah.
like because we had like season 1 and season 2 of Mandalorian were good. Ahsoka was good, but then you had like Book of Boba Fett, and that was like such a distasteful presentation of the character.
Yeah,
And
like top 3 probably of all time most beloved Star Wars characters.
and then you just make him look like a caricature of what he actually what people aspired him to be.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it's like we're just so awkward to watch.
Yeah, the best episode of the entire show was the only one that he wasn't even in.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in it, but like at the very end.
It was just interesting.
Yeah.
Really nothing else to describe it.
No.
Trying to think what else is there.
Well, I mean, Disney as a whole, I think, as awkward as it is to discuss, I think it's impossible to discuss the current state of Disney without mentioning their attitudes towards modern beliefs, right? Like, Disney is trying to appeal to, like, as many agendas as possible. And I think that is their downfall with a lot of the stuff that they're releasing. So, obviously, they're trying to make more stories, including people that have been underrepresented in previous medias, like obviously more African American movies and like more Latina movies. And, like that's fine.
Yeah,
But the
it's the
problem,
way they do it. That's the problem.
yeah, it is the way they do it. And there's two ways that they do it. One is they either, well, the main one they do is they race swap an old character, and then they complain when people complain about it. That is just completely, that's such a terrible way of doing it, and for many reasons. But one is that it's like it's offensive in the way that like they're basically saying they can't write an original story with a person that's from a minority. They have to just change someone who is previously white and then alter it to support that new minority. Like that's just such like a cop out way of doing it. Like if you want to include more minorities in your movie, just write original stories that have minorities as the main characters. It's really that easy. But
Well,
they're just refusing to
concerning
do that.
Disney's history, I don't think it is, because they had like such an interesting character of Finn from The Force Awakens, and then they completely like threw him to the side for no reason at all.
Yeah.
It's like either they want to push or they want to just like help with like underrepresented groups, which is good, and then they just throw them aside the second like they get the chance to. So it's like it's confusing on what they're actually trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Like Finn being a stormtrooper becoming the first Jedi would have been an interesting character, and especially being played by John Boyega, is such a really nice actor, who just happens to be African American. It would have been like an amazing thing for like all those involved, and they just kind of just like completely screwed up his character. And that was like seeing like a lot of other films, and like they had Oscar Isaac, who's a Latino man, right, and from Hispanic
Hmm.
origins, and then they kind of like threw him aside at the expense of Ray, who is their female protagonist, but just she was just like created in such a way that's so annoying that like no fans even like no fans were able to relate to her because she's felt like some overpowered character just to push that like the forces female like idea that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to aspire to create, which is like
Yeah.
there's ways of like presenting arguments or presenting like equality that like balances everything out, but there shouldn't be like a just like there shouldn't be men are strong and men are all powerful. There shouldn't be like the opposite where women are strong too. It's just like we're both strong, right? And like they just need to better balance out their films, in my opinion.
That was the same problem they had with Captain Marvel as to why she was so like like received is because they just made her like so unbelievably powerful to
And
try and
all
show that like strong women, you know?
so it's like I don't know. It was fun. It's like the concerning Ray and every other character. It was just disappointing to see like established characters suddenly seem weak at her hands for like no reason at all. Like Luke Skywalker, um,
Yeah.
he was meant to be like they made him look like it's like some antagonistic like mentor figure at the beginning, and like they redeemed his character. And just the way that he was presented just completely overwrote any development he had within the last 30 years just so they can push a point in the Last Jedi. Which is why the
Yeah.
movie was received so bad, like so awfully. But they tried to fix it and they were a little successful in like Rise of Skywalker. Um, but it's like at that point, it's like their entire initiative was just it was all completely flawed and like it was fully realized within like those two films. Which just really sucks because like there's so much potential, but it was never fully realized in pursuit of just like wanting to advance an argument that wasn't properly conveyed.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the main issues that like is occurring with the whole trying to include like minorities in films is that when Disney does it with an original character, but it's in a terrible movie and the movie does really badly, Disney then like responds to the complaints with the movie by claiming that the fans are just being racist and saying that the movie's bad because it's a minority main character. and like that's also flawed as well. Like I hate how people do that.
Yeah, that's like the cop out of all cop out arguments. But I think of like an example where it's like regardless of what you think or like regardless of anything, there's always going to be like the racist, the sexist that ruin for everyone. It's like
Yeah,
going into the Marvels movie, I didn't think it was going to be bad simply because, oh, it's Miss Marvel, and it's a trio of all female protagonists, and that's going to be bad because of that. I thought it was just going to be bad just knowing the track record of how Captain Marvel was portrayed, how Rey was portrayed, how all like the female protagonists were portrayed in the MCU and Star Wars. So
yeah,
I was
exactly.
worried about it. I didn't think it was going to be awful simply because they were females, and just knowing Disney's track record. But there's always going to be like the silent minority that, or no, the loud minority that I should say,
Yeah,
that ruins it for everyone to saying they're like this incredibly sexist and homophobic or just discriminatory, and that like dampens and like ruins the how people view fans or whatever. They like kind of
yeah,
make everyone else look bad, and it's like that's really the major problem within like being a fan within like MCU or Star Wars or anything like that, or just Disney overall. And like Disney isn't the only company that like faces this. It's like Warner Brothers is equally as awful, especially like considering like what DC is trying to accomplish. DC is gonna fail easily. Like we thought MCU was gonna fail, but if like if James Gunn's like new universe isn't successful, then like at that point DC is like just fails in the entire movie industry. Like
yeah.
their recent track records are not like anything to like praise. Like the Flash was, we thought Quantum Mania or any other movie was bad. The Flash is just the worst superhero film I've ever seen, in my opinion. Like it had so much potential, and then it was just the Flash. And
I still need to watch that one.
I mean, you really
I
don't.
heard it was absolutely shocking.
It was like they made CGI representations of like dead actors, which is kind of effed up. Like Christopher
Mm,
Reeve, just so they can like I don't know. One thing that's a trend within the entire film industry is like following MCUs is like this need for like a multiverse, and that's so
oh yeah, yeah,
boring. I really think that's so annoying that like not everything needs a multiverse because like there's an MCU multiverse, there's the DC multiverse, and like there's
Spider Verse.
Spider Verse. There's always like this shift towards the multiverse, which is cool, but like eventually it's gonna get old, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
already
already
getting old.
overdone. I feel like.
Exactly. It's like there's only so many times that someone can see this and like just like, it's like not get bored of it.
Yeah,
So it's just I don't know. Like I think like but beyond this, like what is still promising. Like off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of anything that's like I'm looking forward to. Not like necessarily Disney or Marvel or Star Wars related, but just any film in general.
honestly, there's only one film I can think of looking forward to, and that's the Batman sequel, like or the sequel to the Batman.
Yeah, that's the
But
only
even then,
like
that's still part of a franchise.
yeah, but that's like the only like good like direction that DC's headed in. Even though like that film's not even going to be a part of like their main canon, it's just going to be an off like a one-off film. Which like, kind of sucks, but it's better. It's honestly I don't think it's gonna be bad if it's kept like away from everything else. That way, like if everything else fails around it, we still have at least like one good franchise. Maybe
Yeah, I really hope they keep it separate.
yeah.
The one thing I don't like about that movie and that because like obviously it's a sequel's coming up, but if it succeeds, which it likely will, judging by the success of the first one, although I mean you never know these days. Um, the only thing I don't like about it is that it's the Joker, and I was talking about it with my coworkers earlier today. like the Joker is so overdone. It's it's insane.
Yeah.
Like Batman has so many other villains that he has to deal with. Yet everyone always has to jump straight to the Joker. Like do oh my god, do other stuff. Like there are other villains I want to see in cinema. I don't want to just see the Joker over and over and over again. I mean,
So
like Barry Keoghan, I don't know if that's how he's, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but Barry, he's he's promising. Like the
he's a good
Joker
actor.
performance that he portrayed in the deleted scene and in the scene at the end are good. And yes, he's a very good actor. Like I have nothing against it. Like I'm sure he's gonna be a good Joker, but it's just the fact that it's a Joker. That's what I don't like about it. I want to see other villains. That's it.
So
Like
what villains do you think would work well with Robert Pattinson's Batman?
I think Clayface would be cool, which I think they are doing. Like they are actually putting Clayface in
Yeah.
there. But the whole point of Robert Pattinson's Batman is that it's not really very supernatural. Like it's all very realistic
Exactly.
because it's not really a superhero film. It's more of a like noir detective film,
It
which
looks
is
like it
why I
could
like
like
it so
easily
much.
take place in the real world. Or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I like it so much. The atmosphere is just really cool. So like obviously, like Killer Croc, like that would not work.
Yeah.
People are saying that Killer Croc is going to be in the movie because like obviously all of Gotham is like flooded after the events of the first movie. So people are saying like, oh, that's the perfect situation for Killer Croc to show up. But I don't think Killer Croc would be a good villain. It just doesn't match the vibe of the first movie. But I think Clayface would be good because he's a very like realistic person that could exist.
I think Mr. Freeze would be a good one. Like not like an actual like Heart of Ice type storyline, like inspired by like, the animated series would be good. Not like the whatever Arnold Schwarzenegger was, but
Yeah,
I feel like I don't know if he would like his powers like maybe be too unrealistic. It's definitely possible. But he would be my number one. I feel like a new interpretation of Scarecrow, like not following like the Christopher Nolan films, would be really nice. Um, like one that's actually like more like not like a doctor, or look, Scarecrow is a doctor, but like one that like Arkham Knight Scarecrow. That's what I would want more
yeah,
than anything else. Like the way he was made in Arkham Knight was just like terrifying. It was like more of a terrorist than Cillian Murphy's interpretation ever was. Not saying that his interpretation was bad. He was fantastic in those films. It's it's like something on like more just terrifying.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's what was so good about the Riddler in the first Batman is because like he's a very realistic person.
yeah,
Like
it's fortune user.
he is a person that you could imagine meeting in the real world as a real villain, and that's what makes him so like scary. Especially the fact that he seems like just like a nerd almost, and yet he like brutally murdered all those people. Like
Exactly.
that's what I like about the Batman movie so much. It's all very realistic.
I keep seeing people things like, oh, they need to have like the Court of Owls in like the movie. But it's like fair enough if they add the Court of Owls, but it's like the entire first movie is about how there's an underground like how the government's all corrupt from like an underground like crime organization, right? So then if you
Yeah,
introduce the Court of Owls, it kind of like it's like yeah, the entire movie was already about a people like taking like a secret organization that's running the actual government. So it's like I think it'd be like they really can't go that direction as much anymore. They say, oh, there's another secret organization that's controlling the government. But
yeah, I agree with that.
it should be. I'm not against the idea. I don't think it's gonna work as well as with what they've already established. But
Yeah,
Clayface would be good. Professor Pig would be an easy guy, but I think he seems like a one-off character. I don't think he'd be like a major villain. Um, he
yeah,
seems like the character like that Batman goes against at the beginning of the movie, and then that leads like a side villain that like leads into the introduction of the main villain.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because they can have other villains. Like they had the Penguin in the first one. He was
Exactly.
like very good. He effectively progressed the plot. Like it was good.
And they had he's getting his own TV show soon. You're filming that right now.
Really
Yeah, it's
interesting.
like a
I don't
limited
know how I feel
series.
about that.
It should be fine. It's about like what happens to him after the events of the first movie, I think.
Oh,
Or like
that is one thing I will say is I don't like the trend of TV shows.
yeah, that's valid.
Like I don't like everything has a TV show now. Like everything's getting a TV show.
Like a spin-off or whatever, or a prequel. I just think
Yeah,
that
like that's the thing is like
having so many
TV
prequels
shows they
overall
end up
sucks.
being. It wasn't.
Having too much prequels or overall, it's like you don't really need an explanation for like, this one-off character. That it's like
Yeah.
when done well, they're done well, but most likely like they're not going to be the best. Like, there's something like choosing
That was the whole problem with like Bucky and the Winter Soldier. Like no one, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like Falcon is like no one's favorite character really. Like he's just kind of there, and like I didn't. I'm not gonna be completely honest. I didn't watch that show, but I heard it was very underwhelming.
It was fine. I mean, like when you're expecting like a buddy cop TV show from the two of them, you would want more. It was
Yeah,
it came out in the middle of like the pandemic, like literally like March of the pandemic. So it's like it was like no, it came out like a year after the pandemic. So like the middle of everything that was going on, and then it had a lot of political themes, which were like they made sense, they were understandable, and but they just weren't likable because it's like this annoying audio and annoying dialogue just kind of like made any argument that the villain had, which is like appears valid now, just like unlikable. It just made it seem so like childish compared to like the seriousness and that Disney was actually trying to portray.
right.
It just felt like it wasn't awful. Wasn't done properly. Like, there's like one thing where it's like they were like bombing like this UN. It was like the series finale. They were bombing this UN meeting, and then like the main villains were, and then Captain America or Falcon, who became Captain America, was like at the end when like the news reporters were asking about them, he was like, "Oh, you can't call them terrorists because they're not terrorists," even though they literally killed like
Right.
innocent civilians. You know, and like held all the politicians hostage and stuff, and like yeah, killed a lot of people. Like they threw a truck like off like a construction site and almost like like completely just like killed like 30 different like individuals or like bystanders. So like they are the definition of terrorists. It was like the argument they're trying to portray that like people supporting a cause that aren't terrorists. It's just like it was just awkward, especially coming from like Captain America. But I don't know. I think that movie. I liked it. That TV show was fine. But like when I say like sequels or prequels that don't really need existing, like I don't know if we really need the Penguin TV show. I think Batman itself he was really good by him like already in the Batman movie. I don't really know if we need his
Yeah.
own TV show. Andor is like the one exception. It was like I loved Andor. I loved Rogue One. So I was like, if done properly, the Penguin should be good. I'm trying to think of like another example of like a spin-off that like doesn't need to really exist at all. It's gonna be like because there's been a lot of them, but I just can't think of them off the top of my head. They're just like maybe good or maybe bad, or like is it really worth complaining about?
Well, there is one that came out recently, which is called. I don't think you've seen it, but like the Boys TV show on Amazon.
Like Gen 5,
Gen V, yeah.
Gen V, yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know what the V stands for, but
well,
I
I think
think
it's
it's
like
the name.
because it's the name of the company, right?
Yeah. Vought.
Vault. So yeah, that came out. I haven't seen it. I've watched The Boys, but I haven't seen Gen V. That doesn't seem like it's a spin-off, but it's like expanding the universe, which is fine. But It was like, all right, I know one thing. They're making a movie based on a Ferris Bueller's Day Off about reportedly about you know how they drop off the car and like at like a parking lot, and then there's two guys
Sure, I've
taking it for
never
a
seen it, but
joyride.
sure.
Okay, that where they have a giant car and they they drop it off at like a parking garage and the attendants take it for a joyride because it's a nice car and
Right.
they get it crashed or whatever, right? The movie's gonna be about the 3 or so hours of what those attendants were up to while the events of the movie were going on, and they're making a movie based off of
What?
that, like a TV show. I heard something about like a couple months ago. It's like
What is the point?
exactly. It's like what's the point? It's like that's like one of the examples I can think of, but there are a few other ones that are just slipping my mind for some reason. Not the time to really be slipping my mind, but it's like they're doing it just because they can do it, and like the reason is money, money, money. Or just
Yeah.
like sales or whatever. It's like
No,
just
well, I
like,
mean, the one I can think of is Gladiator,
oh yeah,
arguably one of the best movies ever made,
and
is
we're getting a
getting a
sequel to it.
sequel for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's
I
like
don't know why.
yeah, so like this need to like continue stories that are like self-contained. It's like it doesn't really seem needed. Or it's like to make a spin-off or a prequel or a sequel or just like expand into some overlying universe. It's like movies are good when they're just left alone, right?
Yeah.
And it was like Pixar has started to do that where they made like like they always like Toy Story always had a sequel, but now they're making like Inside Out 2, which is like it should be fine. They have a good track record of like sequels. Well,
Yeah.
maybe some are kind of bad. Like Finding Dory, Incredibles 2 were pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
Monsters
I know they made a. How was that DreamWorks? What Crudes? Is that DreamWorks?
Oh yeah, Croods is DreamWorks.
I know they made Crudes too. I don't know if it was good. I didn't watch it,
I heard
but
it was better, like surprisingly good.
I know Frozen 2. That was a movie.
Yeah, but like, well, those are like fairly like recent movies. I'm talking about like, um, but like Gladiator is a movie that came out like 20 years ago, and it's just now getting a
Yeah.
sequel.
Yeah.
Which is like awkward. And like, let me look at like examples of movies that are getting sequels from like years ago.
I mean,
Like they're making I Am Legend 2, right?
oh
Which,
yes,
like,
that was it. Yeah. What's the
wait,
point? I Legend is. I've not seen it, but I know it's a good movie and it is self-contained.
there's basically I Am Legend ended off in at least like the theatrical release that most people know about with the main character dying, but they're bringing him back in like an alternate reality from like a deleted scene, like because like there's two versions of the movie, like the theatrical release where like the character dies, and like a bonus DVD release where he survives. So they're making a sequel like 16 years later, 15 years later from the first release to include like the old version of the like the old alternate version, which is like just seems pointless. It seems like there's like really no need for this at all. I'm trying to find other examples. Oh yeah, the the one that came out this summer, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, that's what I was about to bring up.
That didn't need to be made at all, right? The
Yeah.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull never needed to be made, but it's examples like if you're gonna make a movie, like a sequel, at least make it good. And these movies were not good apparently. I haven't seen Dial of Destiny because I just never had the time to watch it over the summer, but it looked interesting. And then apparently it dives into like it dives into aspects that aren't typically associated with Indiana Jones films, right? It have like time travel and stuff. It's like really
Yeah.
that seems like such a deviation in like terms like Disney or the modern like franchise always needing to involve time travel or multiverse or something like that. It just seems like
Yeah.
it's just overall just why.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like Indiana Jones, like it always had the element of supernatural, but it was like biblically supernatural.
Yeah, or
It
like
was all based on like actual Bible events.
or like myths and stuff like that. Because like
Yeah,
it was
like time travel was never like a part of any of that. So I
Yeah.
don't know what they were doing.
sounds like that was like I was interested in watching it, and then I heard that was like a major plot line. I was like, really? That was like an eye. That just made me even roll my eyes. It's like made me really lose all interest. It's like I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know when the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, but
That was like 2008.
I have seen it, and it's ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like
There's
they
not really nothing else to
swing on
describe it.
vines like monkeys, and like Indiana Jones survives a nuclear explosion by hiding in a fridge. Like, it's just stupid,
Yeah.
and it was terribly received, so badly received. So I don't even know why they even bothered to make another sequel if that movie did so badly.
Well, we know why, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
there's no.
The answer to every single why is always money. But I just don't understand like why they thought it'd be a good idea.
Yeah. And like that's like one of the things that like I mentioned earlier, Bob Iger's been trying to address. There's like it's been misguided. It's like it's just because like the entire problem of Disney and most companies overall at this point is just like greed has just been like trying to like they think that audiences are gonna buy into anything that gets released and like
Yeah.
nowadays like we're not um, because like when you keep producing shit, no one's gonna want to keep watching it. So it's like they're finally understanding that's like we're not just mindless consumers or whatever. So it's like we're gonna demand like for good content. So hopefully that should like more should come out, but we still have to sit in the way because like there's so much that's on the horizon that's like most likely gonna not be as what we want, like, as expected. Like the
Yeah.
Fantastic Four movie, they never made a good Fantastic Four movie. It was Pedro Pascal getting casted as Mr. Fantastic. I don't think it's gonna be that
I
good.
don't know why they did that.
It's like he's good. He's the Mandalorian. He was Joel in The Last of Us. He was in like that movie
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage. He's like Hollywood's like guy right now. Everyone wants like Pedro Pascal in their movie, but it's like he's a fine actor, I guess. But it's like
Yeah.
he doesn't need to be in everything, right? Just like I don't know. I like of all the
Same
actors
thing with
they could have made.
what's his name? Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
He's being in everything right now too.
he's
Like
Mario. He's Garfield.
Garfield is crazy. Like that's not even true. I can't understand Mario. Nothing wrong with the Mario movie. Like it was fine, but like Chris Pratt as number one pick for Mario, like that I would never do. Same thing with Garfield. Like I cannot picture him as Garfield.
Mhm. I don't know. Have you seen the trailer for Garfield though?
Yeah, it looks good. Honestly, it
I mean, like
does.
his
Like
voice matches it. I mean, it matches it a lot more than he ever did with Mario, in my opinion. But
yeah, yeah,
so it's like it makes somewhat sense. It just seems like, yeah, he doesn't need to be in everything. There's actors that are definitely overcasted, and there's actors that are definitely not casted like enough.
yeah.
And he's one of the latter. He and Pedro
It all
Pascal.
comes back down. It all comes back down to greed. Like they're just doing what they know has worked in the past because they know it's more likely to make money. That's why they're just making sequels to everything. It's why they're not making original movies with original actors anymore, really, because they're just too afraid for it to fail.
I mean, like there are definitely like some movies that are like original that are like good. I mean, like
Yeah, I mean, Encanto was good, and that was
Encanto
all
was
original
good.
actors.
And like a non-Disney movies like that just came out this year was like The Creator, and I heard that was good. That was where they got the directed he directed Rogue One. It's like I feel like AI or whatever, but I think is another overused topic like AI, multiverse.
Oh
It's
yeah,
everything. It's like I don't know. It should be. That was good. There are examples of like films that are like being like they're in the same franchise of things, but just they're done well. Like the new like Shin Godzilla movie that just came out. Apparently, it's like one of the greatest films. That's the greatest films of the year, and it's a Godzilla movie. And
yeah. I need to watch that. I've heard nothing bad about it.
and it's also like made on like a with a budget that's like not even like a quarter of what regular Hollywood films are. I think it's like maybe like $25 million or maybe even less. And
Wow.
it's like doing really well and like critically and financially, at least like in Japanese market. So it's like that's an example of like if done well and if done with proper care, right?
Yeah.
Like you can make good movies. And it was like all these Disney movies are getting like thousands of, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars for budgets, but they're only like they're just not good. So it's like
Yeah.
they
Like
just need to
that new
analyze like
movie that
what
just
are
came
doing.
out,
Yeah.
like Wish or
Oh
whatever
yeah.
it is.
I
Didn't that
know.
have a bigger budget than like Infinity War?
I don't know. Maybe. I
I
think
don't know if that's what it was. It
you
had a
know
bigger budget than
the
like
Marvels
most
had
Hollywood.
like the Marvels had like a giant
That was
budget.
it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, never mind.
The movie Wish was its own topic because I was like they wanted to recreate like this look about like they wanted to recreate this look about like it's a 2D 3D it's a 3D film with 2D animation in it, right?
Yeah.
So they want to like, blend it together to show like the history of animation or whatever, and it just doesn't. They don't have motion blur, so that way it looks like a TV animated film or like a card. It seems like the 2012 Ninja Turtles film or Ninja Turtles TV show on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
It just seems like the animation looks so cheaply well done, and just like a miss. And like for something that's supposed to like represent like your 100th anniversary, and it's like really, and it's like that's the best you can do. So it's like I think like if Disney doesn't get their act together, especially after that, because like I don't think that movie's really doing that well financially right now.
No.
Whereas like you said earlier at the beginning of the episode, it's like Disney might be in trouble about like where they are in like making movies. Like I don't think that day's gonna come anytime soon, but in a few decades maybe it's like maybe if they keep producing like low quality films, their time may come. But right now I think they're doing fine. Everyone loves Disney, and they also have like 30,000 different endeavors to do beyond filmmaking, right? They have like the parks.
Yeah. I mean, they got the parks and they got Disney Plus, which makes them like hundreds of millions a year.
Yeah,
So
but like if they don't release good content for Disney Plus, then it's like it's not gonna be as popular.
yeah, I mean, honestly, that's probably like where the issue stems from, because they had to create a lot of content regularly
Yeah.
to keep up with Disney Plus, and it's that regular production of content that's causing them to overproduce crap.
Mm-hmm. But, so yeah, um, we're at 47 minutes. Wow, we're at 47 minutes.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk about this a while. All right, so like, let's just recap. In this episode, we just talked about like mostly Disney, about like, their faults, what's wrong with like their company, and like what it really means for like the future. Like we talked about like how like cheap they've been putting in like the quantity over quality aspect of like their filmmaking. What's like they just mass produce films and hopefully they're good. They take a gamble on them. What else have we talked about?
we talked about the Batman and the promising future of the filmmaking and how it's not all bad. And, like like although it does seem bad right now, like there is a lot of good stuff that's coming out of it. So like there is some stuff to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. But so yeah, generally Hollywood's in a weird place right now. There are definitely some aspiring like films that should be good, but there's also a lot of content that's on the way that's also derivative of things from before that just seem like easy cash grabs. So we just have to wait and see, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was RongCast, like episode 9 or 10. I don't remember at this point. But,
I have no idea.
I don't know. I'll end the episode there. I'm PJ, and now that's James, and then let's go play Fortnite. All right,
Yep,
goodbye.
yep.